Good. I think there was still some food on the bake table. Also, I just want to mention we're having the silent auction tonight, and the bulk of the proceeds of our silent auction are going to Wildlife Rescue Association of BC at Burnaby Lake. And I saw on their website, since 1979, more than 140,000 animals have been treated at Wildlife Rescue. So that's pretty amazing. So we'll start the evening off with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Burke Mountain Naturalists conduct our meetings and activities on the unceded core traditional territory of the Coquitlam First Nation, as well as the shared traditional territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Katzie, Musqueam, Squamish First Nations, and we thank the people who continue to live on these lands and care for them. And a welcome from me for everybody coming out here tonight. It's a very special night. As we mentioned before, we've got the silent auction, we've got the annual general meeting, and of course the famous BMN Year in Review slideshow. And just too much for one night. Sounds like too much fun. But we'll try and get through it. For those that are new to the Burke Mountain Naturalists, I'm Ian McArthur. I'm the outgoing president, and I'll be guiding you through tonight's proceedings. If you're new to coming out, I hopefully have a great time tonight. Just a few things in the room, if you didn't already see them. We had the bake table in the other room there, the book table. So at the bake table, we had Kathy and Liz looking after that. The book table is Jeff and Susan. And memberships, if you want to renew your membership or a new membership, you can see Edie or Lori about that. And of course, the 50-50 tickets are going to be sold. So how the 50-50 draw is going to work is that once I finish the slideshow, we'll just do a final call for anybody that wants to get tickets. And then we'll have to close that off because they needed a little bit of time to sort that out. And then we'll have the draw around about 8:40 to 8:45. And if you're interested in getting BMN t-shirts or hats, we didn't get any actual shirts come in, but there's some photos of what they look like. So if you're interested in getting a new BMN t-shirt, we're going to be having some of those in the new year. Just a couple of announcements. We have a hike coming up this Saturday to Belcara Bluffs. So if you're interested in that, you can see Jim Legrand or myself about that. And we have the Christmas bird count on December 30th. It's not technically a BMN event, but if you're interested in that, you can see me about that. So as we do for our year end, we like to go through a bunch of volunteers and thank them. So it's quite a long list of people to thank. We do a lot of work, and we have a lot of volunteers. And so it's that time to recognize those volunteers. So please hold off any applause to the end. So I would first like to thank the executive for everything that they do. It has been a difficult last few years, but we're getting closer to being back to normal. And there's just too much to list of what the executive does. So just a big, huge thank you to the executive. Thank you to our newsletter crew, Linda Soar, Catherine Ho, Edie Kernigan, Liz Thunstrom, Brian Wormold, and the members who contribute articles and photographs. It just makes our newsletter fabulous. Thanks to John Saremba for being our BAT team coordinator and all the things that he does, not just the BAT team, but there's all kinds of things John does. Thanks to the members of the Education Conservation Committee, and that group is led by Phil Buchan and Lori Austin. And they've had a really busy year this year, and some new members that have joined the EdCon committee as well. Thanks to the Friends of DeWolvo Slough committee, led by David Montany and Jeff Rudd. Thanks to Kathleen Wallace-Deering and Nancy Furness for organizing the two Tri-Cities Urban Forest Forums and all the other people that helped out with those. They were a great success. Thanks to the hike organizer, that would be myself, and all the other leaders and helpers that come out. So big thank you to me. And we didn't have as many hikes this year as we have on other years, but hopefully we'll change that for next year. Thanks to the walk organizers, Gay Mitchell, Mark Johnson, and Jeff Rudd. Thanks to the water quality monitoring leaders, John Saremba, Chris and Evelyn Thompson, Liz Thunstrom, Lori Austin, David Montagny, and Jeff Rudd. And we do the water quality monitoring at Como Lake, Blakeburn Lagoons, DeBoville Slough, and the Coquitlam River. And also thank you to all the volunteers that come out with that as well. Thanks to the invasive plant removal leaders, Kathy Lecco, David Montagny, John Saremba. We do the invasive removal at Blakeburn Lagoons, DeBoville Slough, and Como Lake. And again, thanks to all the other volunteers that just come out and help out with that. Thanks to Edie Kernigan for corrugating the displays at our public events, like the Fingerling Festival and Salmon Come Home, and to all the other people that come out and help out at those events. And again, thanks to Edie Kernigan and Phil Buchan, Victoria Otten, and Jeff Rudd, who look after our website and our social media sites. Thanks to Victoria Otten for organizing all the bird counts throughout the year. And we have the Christmas bird count coming up, and she'll be a big part of that. And the silent auction here, the lead person in that is Edie, once again, but it takes many hands to bring this event together, so thanks to everybody involved with that. And our monthly meetings, we had a lot of Zoom meetings this year, but we ended the year with some in-person meetings, and it takes quite a few people to bring those together as well, so thanks to everybody for that. And a big thank you to Victoria Otten for finding our guest speakers. We have wonderful guest speakers, and a big thanks to Victoria for finding those for us. And I hope I did cover everybody. If I don't, thank you to everybody. All the members, thank you so much. And I did mention about the membership, so if you're interested in renewing or becoming a new member, it is $33 for individual or $40 for a family. And for those, you can either pay here, by mail, in person, or online. And online, you can use a credit card or the PayPal. And we also do e-transfer. So now we're going to move on to the AGM. And Jeff, I may need you to... Oh, no, we're back up. If it's... I can see it on my screen. Okay, there we are. Good. So yeah, so we'll move on to the AGM part of our meeting. It doesn't take too long. But what we'll need to do is we had the minutes from, and this was sent out, where it's on there, on December 11th. This was sent out by email to members, so if you might have had a chance to read it. But I'm looking for or a motion to adopt. Can I have somebody from the group that's? Oops, sorry, got to put my glass. So Laura, okay. And can I have someone to? Second. Okay, thanks, Sheila. And anybody have any questions? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Passed. So now we'll move on to the financial report. Now, Edie, did you want to say anything about the financial report? Okay. Okay. And so that's the full spread of it. But I will. Edie, can you stand up and maybe come a bit closer? I'm the furthest person away, but still. Look at that. We got a mic.
Oh my God, scary. A few years ago, John got a donation for $4,000 for bat equipment, and due to COVID, they weren't producing. So even we've had the money in our account for $4,000 for several years, and so this year he was able to purchase the equipment, and it's awesome. So if the bat walks come come out and see this infrared camera that, I don't know the correct terms, that John bought. It's really great. So that's a big expenditure for us.
Okay, great. Thanks, Edie. And I'll just move to the next section, the statement of financial position. And did anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adopt. Is there somebody? All right.
Could you
Oh.
say what FODES means?
Friends of the Beauville Slough. Yep. Okay, and can I have someone to second it? Liz, okay. Could see the hand, but not the face. Okay, and all in favor? Anybody opposed? All right, passed again, thank you. Now we'll move on to our election. And so far, we have the following people willing to put their names forward for the Burke Mountain Naturalist Executive, but we can always add other people, or we can even run off an actual election. So far, we have Phil Buchan put his name forward for president. Vice President, Brian Warmold. Brian also does the membership secretary as well. Treasurer, we have Edie Kernigan. Recording secretary so far is vacant. We take turns at that. And members at large, James Bobick, which is new to our list. And we have Elaine Golds, myself as past president. You can't vote me out because I'm not voted in this year. Victoria Otten, Laura DuPont, Kathy Lecco, and Jeff Rudd. And I now put it out to anyone that would like to either nominate somebody or would like to nominate themselves to come on. Oh, I saw a hand almost moved there. So now I will go through calling out one time. Is there anybody that would like to join the executive? Not even pointing fingers at somebody else. I now call two times if anybody would like to join the executive. And third and final call for anybody that would like to join the executive or put their name forward. Okay, hearing from no one, I declare the group elected as the BMN executive for 2024. Thank you to everybody for that. So just to let people know there it is. So just to give you another announcement that here's our new president. Come on up. You want a speech? A speech. Okay, get rid of him. I'm still to the end of December, but
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Phil Buchan. I've met most people here, but not all people. But thank you so much to the executive, Ian, the outgoing president, Jeff, Brian, Victoria, Lori, Kathy, Laura, Edie, and Elaine, and as well as the EdCon committee, which I was on this year as well. And I'd like to thank Lori, Catherine, Nancy, Kathleen, Rich, and John, Liz, and Elaine on that committee. And I'm just really humbled to accept this position. And I'm going to need support. Like, I'm just the new guy in the executive this year from last year, so I really need support. I know we have a great team because the things that we're doing every year is just amazing. Like, I can't believe what we're accomplishing every year. And I just want to give one shout out to John. I went on the bat thing at Como Lake. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think I recommend it for everyone. It's just unbelievable, the new camera that he has. And You can see the bats flying around in the sky. It's just unbelievable. And if anyone needs to contact me, just send me an email, and I'm open to any questions if you want. And we also need volunteers as well. That's a very important thing we need for the hikes and for everything, for all our events that we do. And thank you so much for this honor.
Great, thank you very much. We don't normally have the new coming in president come up to speak. That's fabulous. Yeah, and there is a lot of help on the executive. It's a team. It's a team that we have names to positions, but there's help from everybody. So I just wanted to mention our next meeting in January will be on January 11th, and it'll be a meeting with John Reynolds going through the highlights of the Tri-Cities 2023 Christmas bird count. That's our pretty standard meeting for January, but John's coming in once again. But that meeting will be on Zoom, so we will not be meeting in person in January. So now we'll slide over, or unless anybody had any questions about any of that, we'll slide into the BMN year in review. And if I could have the lights. And the way I like to do the year in review, if anybody has any short comments or whatever, as I'm going through the slides or questions, there are a lot of slides, so we'll try and get through them fairly quickly. But if you do have any short questions, feel free to ask away. So these are all photographs that were submitted by people. So this is what we got here. So anybody guess where this photo is taken? Hey, great. Okay, we'll start off as we do a lot at the beginning of the years. We'll start off with the nest box cleaning. So I'm not exactly sure what's in this box, unless it's leftovers from a paper wasp. Anybody know exactly what this was? Not the usual. This is more usual what we get in the nest boxes. And this one, a lot of cedar and moss. Usually it's a squirrel that causes this. And this one is, it's got some growth in it. I don't know, Jeff, if you remember what that growth is called? Oh, it's okay. It's moth larvae.
Yeah, the bee moth apparently is parasitic on native bees. Actually, first saw these at the Bobo about 5 or 6 years ago. Nobody knew what they were, so I took them up to Tia in biology at SFU, and she cultured them and identified them. And it is the second recorded observation of bees in Western Canada. So it's sort of a nice example of how nest box cleaning is citizen science.
Yes. And when we first saw them, we thought they might have been roots or something that was growing in it, and they really, really stick to the side of the nest box. So into Minikata Farm, had a little bit of snow a day or so before. And again, what we find inside the boxes, if it's being used by swallows, there'll be duck feathers and that inside. The odd time we find some wasps. Usually they're pretty docile at that time of year. The odd time that we find a dead bird in the boxes, which isn't always good. We didn't find this in the box, but kind of interesting, we found a snake skin, which was just quite interesting. And then I came up with the idea of, hey, what about snakes and ladders? And then at Minikata Farm in the stables, actually, instead of using one of the boxes, here's a natural probably a barn swallow. And then after our nest box cleaning, we took a little walk around the backside, leading over towards the main part of Minikata Park, and this is looking up at the high knoll. So this is the dam that holds the water back in the marsh area. And then the group on that day. So you can see the high knoll in the background. As you probably know, that there was a very large fire that happened up there. I was actually quite surprised from when I saw the flames and smoke coming off of it that there's as many trees left on it as there are. We did a hike up there later that you'll get to see some close-ups of what it looks like up there. And just a bit closer, but yeah, there's still trees up there, which is really good. And then on to Colony Farm for nest box cleaning. This is around the pond area. We have boxes, close to 30 boxes around the pond. And this is Kathy in the foreground. I'm getting one of the boxes in the background. These ones you don't have to climb up too high on the ladder. And this was interesting. This isn't one of the boxes I cleaned, but it looked like it was stuffed full of grass. And I guess that's the inside of it, all been pulled in, or a bird was trying to pull them in, or something was trying to pull it in there. And then sometimes we see some eggs, and again the duck feathers. And this is a wood duck box. Looks like it was successful. And again, you know, it's amazing that the birds, how much stuff they bring into the nest. You know, we put a little bit of wood chips at the bottom, but all the rest is brought in by the birds. That's what it looks like when it's taken out. And we had some deer droppings around there as well. And this year, we were warned about this, but a lot of the posts were not doing so good. And one of the issues with Colony Farm, that you can't just dig a hole there without getting an archaeological survey done. But what we were told, that we could use the existing hole and just put in wedges. So that's what we did on a few of the posts. We just sort of shimmed them up and they're back up again. But I'm not sure how long they're going to last, because the ground is quite soft.
Ian,
Yes.
are there any issues with bear predation at Colony Farm?
Not that I know of. No, the place that we had the most problem with that was in the Widgeon, but we didn't go into, or we haven't been in the Widgeon, I guess, the last few years. And if anybody was on these trips, because I wasn't on any of these trips, so if they want to tell anything about this, so this is at Blakeburn and the Reflections Garden. And it looks like they were doing some planting here. This is through the city of Poco.
I'm happy to speak to that.
That would be great, Christina.
So the Reflection Garden is on the east side of Blakeburn Lagoons in Port Coquitlam. And it was intended, when the park was open, for this area to be an area for people to sit and reflect, because the park is not far from where the murders were in the Picton farm. And there's a bench. I don't know if you'll see a picture with the bench, but one of our members was quite dismayed at seeing how it had become overrun with a variety of invasive species and grasses and willows and alders. That's not the Reflection Garden anymore, though. You only have the one picture of the Reflection Garden.
Okay, sorry.
Ooh, there you go. Okay, so it looks like you only have the one picture, but for those of you that do go and visit there now, a variety of us, some of the local people that live in the area, as well as some BMN members, and then the city of Port Coquitlam helps as well. We went in and we removed all of there was some species that shouldn't be there and some species that have spread from elsewhere, and so we removed that. And then we put in some native species, including some small shrubs and perennials. So that particular party is where it's already been cleaned up. The city had brought some mulch, and now we're putting in some of the perennial plants. And we're happy to say that this summer it was really quite spectacular. It looked very, very nice. A nice place to sit and enjoy and relax. So it's one of our projects, and now we have a sign there that credits the Burke Mountain Naturalists and volunteers that work to keep that area a place to enjoy.
Great, thanks, Christina. So I guess, as she mentioned, the rest of these photos are from the other parts of Blakeburn. Let's- Okay.
So this area used to be in the 60s, it was, they were sewer ponds, and then they didn't use them for the longest time, and they just sort of sat there. And then about 5 years ago, the federal government provided some money to the city, and everything was stripped totally, and then they brought in new soil. So many of you know the story of Blakeburn lagoons, so I won't elaborate more. But there is a lot of native species there, but there's also a lot of blackberry that's coming in, and we've been focusing, the volunteers that have been going out, we've been averaging about 4 to 6 times a year the last 3 years. And we focus on the inside of the fence, the closest to the water. And happy to say that we've been able to stay on top of keeping the blackberry at bay, and we've opened up areas, and the native species, the Nootka rose and other types of shrubs have been growing in there. So it's just an example of, a team that maybe has gone in there, a team of 2 or 3, and often we have up to 10 people, so that we would have probably 6 or 7 piles like that. Just on one day that we go out for a couple of hours, and the city takes the remnants away.
Great. That's the city taking it away. Okay, so work parties at Como Lake. I know there was probably at least 3 of them, and I was on the first one, which was quite wet. And so I have a little display there for letting people know what we're up to, and going in and tackling mainly the blackberry. This was a...
That's at the north end. It's, Kathy, that's at the north end. This blackberry's really taken over. And the previous slide was Liz, our ambassador extraordinaire.
Oh,
There. Yes, lots of people stopped by. One day we were there, and the school was having some kind of fun run, and that teddy bear was a big hit. And Edie brought all that stuff in her car. She is fantastic at setting up displays. So we had quite a few interested people, and on the lower left corner, I don't know if you see the northern flicker nest, that is also quite a fascinating site. And that was Jeff Rudd who cut that open, and I don't know who has a picture.
there's a better photo later on about it.
Yeah, so we've been, there's a lot of interest, and we, like at Blakeburn, we have quite a few dedicated volunteers who come out and dig and laugh and joke and go home wet and tired and feeling satisfied that we've got a truck full of blackberry in it.
Yeah, digging out the blackberry there, so. And removing some bigger piece of wood in that as well. And there it is in the truck. Actually, she took multiple loads on this day. And some areas that probably were tackled in future days. This was another day, probably a little bit wet, maybe not as wet as the first day. But again, putting the blackberry on the tarps. And this, I think, was on a dry day. And there, Kathy had mentioned about the piece of a tree that Jeff had cut in half, and you can see the sapsucker, I believe it is. Jeff, is it? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I said you.
Yeah.
And Elaine was our ambassador that day.
And Odie, the bear. Looks like a much nicer day. And some young'uns coming out as well?
Yeah, I think that was the day they had the run.
Okay. Okay, and work parties at DeBoval, mainly the knotweed removal, the display, and piling it up on the road and either put it on the road and then put it on tarps, and then we put it in the truck. That's getting down to the DeBoval Marina. And somebody was even in a canoe on one of the days. Not working, but just pleasure canoe. And then water monitoring. Now I just have photos from Como Lake. And I don't know if Evelyn, I didn't see her here, but yeah, so they do different water testing. And Liz is here as well, so, and Lori. So this is dissolved oxygen. I'm not sure what this test is for, or what that. pH, okay. And then is it this Secchi disc? Is that how it's called? Yeah. So that's looking for how clear the water is. And then even out in the snow. And so we only got one photo from the bird surveys at Como Lake. They go out quite regularly and do bird counts. What? So, oh, did I say Como Lake? Oh, I did have Como Lake. Boy, oh boy, I'm bad. Okay, but that. Thank you for covering that up, Lori. Boy, oh boy, yes. Colony Farm, and then Size the Bar Festival, also known as Nature's Day. We had a display there. Odie shows up to everything. And then the Fingerling Festival. This time Odie's wearing a hat. There's a later photo of Odie with something else. So, and again, you can see Jeff's cutout there as well, a little bit clear. And DeBoval Slough display. And Who Am I is a great one. And Salmon Come Home at Hoy Creek. And Maureen and myself, I looked at this photo and I didn't even know it was me. But anyways. And with Catherine and Bettina. And the Hunter's Moon Festival at Colony Farm. And so this was around the Halloween time. And I'm not sure what Odie's wearing. Maybe someone can explain. A costume, or what's Odie wearing? A ladybug costume. Okay. I was trying to figure that one out, and I was thinking, bats? No. Okay, ladybug. Okay. And this is a pretty cool costume, the scarecrow. And the Wondrous Tree Fellowship was there as well. And then one slide from the Coquitlam Environmental Volunteer Celebration. Our new presidents there, John Saremba and Dave Montagny. And then Elaine's 80th birthday celebration we had in just the room across the way here. Politicians came from all over. Incredible words for such an incredible lady. So we got Finn Donnelly speaking first. And we have Benita Zerillo and Elaine and John Kishore and Amy Lubick. And Benita represented or gave a certificate to Elaine. And then a cake, of course. And it was funny because there were all kinds of people that were giving speeches, and I was emceeing it, and you know, I was kind of saying, is there anybody else that wants to speak? Not even thinking, Elaine says, well, I'd like to speak. And she's like, well, of course. What am I thinking here? So Elaine went on for a little while talking and that. So yeah, a little picture of the people that were at the celebration. And then we had a members appreciation. This was our first in-person meeting after COVID, or maybe you shouldn't say after COVID, but after the largest part of it, at Blue Mountain Park, just across the road from here. So we had a great turnout for that. And James Bobick, our new member at large, gave a walk or a talk and a walk of all the trees in Blue Mountain Park, which was fabulous. And a group shot, and then a picture of the goodies that we had that night. So the nature walks, there were spring nature walks, but I didn't get any photos from the spring. But the autumn nature walk, I got a few photos, starting off with the town center park. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to say anything about some of the I'm not sure if you were on these walks, but I know you were on some of them. So this was I think it's the Serenity Gardens at Lafarge Lake. So Gay, Mark, and Jeff are the ones that lead these up. And then there were a couple of walks along Hoy Creek. And Jeff, do you know what this is a photo of? Yeah, so was I. It's obviously one of the ponds or wetlands area, but I'm not sure exactly where it is along Hoy Creek. So, and is this a Sitka spruce there?
Yeah, there's a couple of big Sitka spruces on right beside Hoy, just above Guilford. It's quite impressive that they survived as long as they have.
Yeah, there's a few along the Coquitlam River. It's quite amazing. And I believe this is Salmonberry. And I think those are Victoria Otten's hands. Some interesting trees sort of looking for sunlight. And they went by the Hoy Creek Hatchery. And then the Double Slough events, they did a few walks there. This was an evening walk. Or was it? No, maybe it was an afternoon walk. You can see golden ears in the background. Fringe cup. Beaver Dam. And you get naturals out there. You get binoculars. You're looking at things. And I'm not sure which one of the walks this was on, but I got sent these photos, incredible photos of golden ears with Pitt River in the foreground. And then this was on the south side of Double Slough. And the sign says there was a scavenger hunt. And the display there. And Odie trying to ride a bike. And I'm not sure what's going on here. Someone could please explain this one. I don't know who the person is, and I don't know what's going on. Oh, it is Cliff Kelsey. Okay. Because it did say, it said Cliff on it. I was wondering if it was Cliff Kelsey, but I didn't recognize him. So did Odie come to life and take over Cliff or what? Oh, okay. And this is out at the edge of Double Slough, looking out onto the Pitt River. And then there was the watershed tour in July, I believe it was. Or, was it August? July, yeah, it was July 9th, I believe. So this is at the base of the dam. I wasn't on this tour either, but I imagine this is going to some of the salmon enhancement areas. Some of the ponds. This would all be below the dam, I believe. And this is the intake. I think that was built in like 1903. So forget if it's It's around 15 or 20 feet below this is the intake of where all of our drinking water comes through that. And then it was a Metro Vancouver tour, so there was a guide. And then I imagine this is one of the old growth forest walks. Looks like a Douglas fir. Some big Douglas firs in the watershed. And a viewpoint looking out at Coquitlam Lake. And the big group that went on that trip. And now we'll go on with the hikes. So we started off at the beginning of the year. We're doing Belcarra Bluffs, and Woodhaven Swamp, and kind of interesting that the last hike of the year will also be at Belcarra Bluffs, but will be a different route. We'll be doing that on Saturday. So this is Woodhaven Swamp. And then you have to climb up what we call Belcarra Ridge, through second growth forest. Some interesting bracket fungus along the way. And somebody that cut one of the trees decided to put in a happy face. You always know when you're on the trail or where you are on the trail when you see that. And I thought this was interesting. Somebody was asking me, well, where are we? And my wife in the background, Deanna, she's thinking, he has no idea where he is. And then we got up to the viewpoint. I was up there not too long ago. I'm always amazed at how great the view is from there. So that's, if you're not sure, that's looking to the west up Burrard Inlet. You can see downtown Vancouver. And when I was there a few weeks ago, you could see Vancouver Island, the mountains of Vancouver Island from there. And this was an interesting sign that we came across. I've been hiking up there for many years, and Metro Vancouver had always sort of kind of said it's out of bounds and that, and the Trials Bike guys were in there as well, but they've been told to get out of there. And so Metro Vancouver, I don't know what their plans were. They were trying to stop people from going up there, and then finally, they couldn't stop people from going up there, and they put up these signs, which is a huge improvement in that they're just warning people that the trails aren't up to the regular standard of a lot of the other Metro Vancouver trails. But the great part of it is that they're talking about improving the trails, so that's fabulous. And on our way back to Woodhaven Swamp, we saw a newt. We almost stepped on it. So that's my little point-and-shoot camera bag, which is pretty small. So you get an idea of how small these newts are. There we go. And the little needles that are almost looks like its tongue, but it's not. And then hike to Minnetonka, where I talked about that earlier. So this area, we did a sort of big circle in Minnetonka. It was a wet day. And this is the improvement area that they did on part of the way up to the high knoll. They put in a bunch of rock steps. And as we got a bit higher towards the knoll, we could see where some of the remnants of the forest fire and signs warning people. And they certainly left some trees that have been scarred. The interesting thing I always tell people when we're out talking about the Douglas fir trees, that they're designed to withstand forest fires. They have the thick bark and moist bark, and really evident here that the Douglas fir trees, some of them survived the forest fire. Burnt heavily or scorched on the outside, but still living. And it was a bit of a foggy day, but this is the high knoll. So there definitely were some trees that had to be, or were burnt and then cut down. So giving probably a bit better views from the area. Looking down on the pond or the marshes. And again, people not thinking I know where I'm going, so they're having to pull out their phones to figure out where we are and where we're about to go. And then on the way down, on one of the lower trails that leads to the lodge, they're very rocky slopes, but you could see where the forest fire had come down the hillside, had crossed the trail and gone on the other side. And so a lot of those trees that burnt either fell down or were cut down. And Miller Ravine and the Chines, not too far from here. So this is starting in Miller Ravine Park and heading to the north end of Blue Mountain Street, where you get some lovely views of Mount Seymour, Elsay, and Bishop. And down you go towards Port Moody Secondary School, and then a side trail that takes you into the sort of more remote areas of the Chines. Really, really lush in there. I love it. Some beautiful trees and even some fairly large trees in there. Fairly decent size Doug fir. And the Falls to Lily Valley was just incredible. Just a really narrow trail going through with it all in flower. And this is a really interesting big leaf maple with many trunks that are coming out of one location. Something you have to duck under. And Burnaby Mountain. So we started off down at Barnett Highway, but we made it up to, I think it's called Centennial Park, up by the Old Horizons. So you get a beautiful view looking up Indian Arm. And then back along the Power Line Trail, we saw some Western Combine. And it was interesting, it had I believe it was from the cottonwood trees, had the fluff kind of cover in it as well. And the Sheep Paddock Trail. So I put this hike on in memory of Frank Nick, and because it was a place that he always loved to go. And so I told a few people about it. I said, wear your jeans, because Frank would have been wearing his jeans. So it's rare that you see me out in jeans, but yeah, so day to hike in jeans. So this is, we started at Gates Park, and we went down to the Coquitlam River, one of my favorite spots as a kid over 40 years ago. And the Red Bridge, crossed over and then onto the Sheep Paddock Trail. So they've done some enhancement in this area. And then the woodland walk that we do every year in Saw Blade Falls is the anniversary of the Pinecone Burke Provincial Park. So this is on the bridge that crosses Pritchard Creek. And I just love this stump. This is on the start of the upper loop. The forest is now, or it was logged over 100 years ago. So if you think something in the forest is watching you, it is. And that's the big stump. We used to get people up on top of it, but we don't anymore. And the Woodland Walk Falls. And then a little bit up a steep trail from there, you get to a viewpoint where you get a peekaboo view of Coquitlam Lake and over towards Eagle Ridge. Some interesting mushrooms along the way. And I can't go anywhere without finding an old stubby somewhere. So one of the bridges, one of the many bridges, and the steep trail that leads down to Sawblade Falls, and then Sawblade Falls. If you haven't been there, it's a great place to go. And the Solstice Cycle, there was only 3 of us on the trip, but we did it in a counterclockwise direction, got out to the Pit River, looking up Golden Ears, And then, well, actually, back one. If you look, see if I can get the cursor. If you look here, when we could see this little bit of a rainbow happening right in here. And as we carried on further, the rainbow got a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger. Just amazing how it was coming down and hitting the ground. I was sure that it was dropping off some aliens or something. And then Pinnacle Creek, again, it's kind of an extension of the Chines. The biggest trees of the Chines are in Pinnacle Creek. Almost like pancake fungus, bracket fungus, but kind of looks like a pancake or a stack of pancakes.
Still frogs in there.
Good. In Pinnacle Creek? Okay. And somebody taking a picture of me, taking a picture of them. And that's what I was taking a picture of. So it's the biggest Doug fir that I've found in that area. But there's a few of them in that area. Devil's Club with the red berries on top. And picking berries was lots of berries out that evening. Now, I don't know if these are, I just call them blueberries, but they could be blue huckleberries. It's a lovely forest in there. The creek was quite low at this time. And then it was a final little uphill trip, went by another fairly large Douglas fir tree, and then we came out at Charles Best. So our last hike for the slideshow anyways, Munro Lake Viewpoint and Dennett Lake. So starting from Quarry Road, the big switchback trail is going up. And then we got up to the viewpoint, which is about 3/4 of the way up to Munro Lake. And you get a view. I always tell people that from this viewpoint here, you always think that you're high when you're on the high knoll. But when you're up on this viewpoint, you look down at the high knoll and it looks tiny. And looking further out. And this was an interesting old tree that had died and almost made like a flower pot, and it's got foam flower growing in it. And then we hit the junction with the Village Lake Trail. This is an old sign that Doug Benny made many years ago, and it sat at Don's place for years, and then it sat in my garage for years and years, and then finally a few years ago I put it up. And then we made it to Munro Lake. And I told people that there might be a special plant here. Have a look. And sure enough, sundew. So not only sundew at Dennett Lake, but it's also at Munro Lake. It's a carnivorous plant. And then we made it to the Munro Lake viewpoint, looking over at Golden Ears and down towards Munro Lake. That's Munro Lake. It used to be dammed and it used to be one big lake. Now it's reverted back to more of a natural, and it's about sort of like three smaller lakes. And then we got to Dennett Lake. And it was time for some people to relax, and it was time for some people to go for a swim. Almost a flat rock to find. It was probably very cushiony. And then since the frog went for a swim, a couple of us went in for a dip. So, yeah. And as we're waving to you, that's saying goodnight from the slideshow. So that's. So I'm not sure what happened with this. I'm not sure what happened with this slide because this one had all the people that contributed. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure if something happened with the. I'll try and fix that. But anyways, we had. I'll try and remember all the people that contributed slides. We had John Saremba, myself, Deanna McArthur, Jeff, June Lucier, Edie Kernigan, Victoria. Trying to think of when. Okay, I think that's the names. There might have been missing one or two, so. So thank you very much. Let's, if we can bring up the lights. So how are we doing? Oh. What? Came out of the, what are we doing? We're actually, whoa, we're 1 minute early. Wow. Okay, so did anybody have any questions about the photos? Oh, great.
I just want to say thank you to the Birdman Naturals for all you guys do, but also, keeping those trails as groomed or whatever, as Victor used for taking care of them and making sure people don't get lost, because they make such a difference, and a lot of people enjoy that space, and we're really grateful.
Great.
And also, if we have photos, who do you want them sent to?
You mean for the year-end slideshow?
For anything.
Oh, okay. Well, well, they can be sent to the BMN standard email address. Like, what's that? Sorry. Yeah. So then that will get, or if you want it directed for the newsletter, you can send it to the for the newsletter as well. Yeah. So, yeah. Anybody have any other questions? Okay. Oh.
If I could just add,
Yeah, sure.
Sean Coquitlam City Councilor, on behalf of the city, I want to say thank you for all the work that Birdman Naturalists do, keeping our parks tidy, and the advocacy you do for one of the green spaces in the city.
Right.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Pamela.
Does BMN have any projects or a project on our naturalist? That is the question. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I know Ruth will know what that is, but, because obviously you're cataloging a lot of plants and wildlife. Like, I was really like, I think that's a red-legged frog that you had at Dennett Lake. That
Oh, okay.
would be really cool to know that.
Right.
So when you're gathering those photos, like, BMN can have its own, account.
Something a couple of years ago, John Reynolds, he came in and gave us a presentation.
John is like the uber internationally.
We do have a BMN site for iNaturals since we started collecting information. That was before COVID.
Right.
So it does exist.
Yeah. I was going to say, Lori's got one for Como.
There's one for Como Lake
Yeah.
and also Lafarge.
Yeah. You don't have to have like a physical space, like Como Lake will have park boundaries,
Okay.
but every time you're on those hikes, so even retroactively, you can add those images to the account as long as you're able to remember the location and the date.
Okay. Yeah, and if correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you generally use an iPhone or whatever, but you don't have to have an iPhone to use it. You can somehow you can download those photos and the information if it's not from an iPhone. Is that correct?
Well, you can use any smartphone, but you can use any camera.
But you can also do it from your home computer though too, can't you?
Yes, I usually, because it's part of my job, so normally I take pictures on my phone, and then when I get back to the office, I just open it on the computer, the application, like the account on my naturalist.
Right.
And then just drag and drop.
Okay.
If John does another talk, he'll be much more eloquent at explaining.
Yeah. Well, he did do a talk for us. I wasn't at that meeting, but yeah. Great. Thank you, Pamela. Okay, so we should finish up here because we need to do final for the raffle. So if we can have Phil and Sheila, if you want to maybe stand over there somewhere and take it, if anybody wants to purchase any more 50-50 draws, because we're only just going to have a few more minutes before we're going to shut that off. And so just so you know how it's going to work, in about let's say 10 minutes, we'll cut off the silent auction. So you've got about 10 more minutes to place your bids, and then I'll give you a 5-minute, a 3-minute, a 2-minute, 1-minute warning before we do it. And then once that's done, then we'll have the 50-50 draw, and then we'll be looking for people to pay for their stuff. So, Edie, did you want to say anything else about that? Or is she gone? Okay. Edie said have fun and spend lots of money. Okay, so, oh, Lori. Right. And are you taking memberships? Okay. if anybody would like to pay for the membership, I have not paid that yet this year, so, or I shouldn't say for next year yet, but I will. Okay, so, yep, get your 50/50 draw tickets if you haven't, and put your bids or purchase some books.